The first phase, when we started Infinity Foundation, we gave away $5, $6, $7 million in a decade for causes where the idea was that we thought somebody else knows more than we. We funded Harvard Indology Roundtable 3 years in a row. We funded 2 visiting professors, each 6-figure amounts, each of them, Arvind Sharma and Ashoka Kluchkar, way back. Because they're very smart, promising people, and by putting them there, they will teach differently. And the roundtable was the main Indology roundtable in the world. It was at Harvard, and we used to bring like 50, 60 scholars from India, Pakistan, Iran, all kinds of those areas where the whole Indus Saraswati is. And then they would do 3 days of discussions. And there were linguists, archaeologists, historians, art historians, genetics people, all kinds of disciplines. And then we did, we were the main funding agency that did this history, this science and religion, because science and religion was being taught only with Christianity, Judeo-Christianity, and Templeton Foundation was the main one doing that. And we thought that this should be more for dharma also. So we started in the University of California, Santa Barbara, a project which went on for several years. Of course, then later it was hijacked because Templeton came, offered them 5 times more money, and they went where the money is. And they took the people, the chair and all that, and recalibrated it, digested a lot of our knowledge and Christianized it. So we've had a lot of those experiences. We developed projects with Columbia University, many projects with Columbia University. I remember one of the early projects was to teach non-dualism. And non-dualism both in philosophy, in psychology, quantum physics, So we had multiple disciplines coming together to do this program on non-dualism. They accepted the money. And the philosophy department didn't want anything to do with it. They didn't want anything. There's no such thing as Indian philosophy as far as they're concerned. Philosophy starts with Greece, ends in Europe and the US. So they told me that, I told them, well, I go to all these conferences and they talk about consciousness. So where is that all about consciousness, Vedanta, quantum physics? I was very active in that in the early 90s onwards. They said that for that you go to psychology department, but don't come to philosophy department. So they're kind of pushing you around. So I went to the psychology departments, and the psychology departments were taking these Indian ideas and kind of removing the vocabulary and the references and the Sanskrit words and mapping it onto their own terms. They came up with terms like neurophenomenology, that kind of a terminology. So our people would not even know what they're talking about. And yet they're talking about all our kind of stuff. And then when I said that these are things that our people are doing, give them many examples, then they said, no, that is religion. Go to religion department. So I went to religion department. And religion department was teaching this caste, cows and curry kind of idea about Hinduism. Caste, cows and curry. And I said, where is this coming from? Who told you all these things? And then they would say, well, this is the field work. The field work of empirical data gathering is called anthropology. You got to go to anthropology department. So I went to anthropology department. And believe me, as a product, because I'm not somebody who just sit back passively and write check and not do. I am a troublemaker, a disruptor. I go over there. If we funded something, I'll read everything they've written. And I'll write comments and write it back to them. So they would say, Infinity Foundation is the only funding source and the greatest funding source for India-related causes, but this Rajiv Malhotra is a trouble guy. And so many people would say, if you would not get involved, just write your check and you're so important, you should not be wasting your time writing all these things. It's our job to write all these things. In other words, you're a high-class guy, you just sit and give us the money, and we'll do all the work, and we'll make you important. We'll come and give you mala, and we'll put your name here, there, and make you important fellow in the university. And you see, this kind of a sellout for ego is what is happening now. Too many of our people selling out for ego, just to put their name somewhere. So I didn't want to do that. To me, that was not what it was about. I wanted to argue on them issues, on the subject matter. So this business took me to so many social sciences and humanities departments. And I started attending their annual conferences. You know, there's an annual conference of anthropologists with about 10, 15,000 scholars go, an annual conference on psychology, on cognitive science, on consciousness. I go to those. Then religious studies, American Academy of Religion, I've been going there, and so on. Philosophy conferences. So I found that I built a database of everybody writing on Indian thought. And I hired some, thank you, I hired some Princeton University students as interns, and we would scan all the proceedings, we would make a huge database and start analyzing who is who. And you know, this database, we had a few thousand entries of scholars whose full-time job, not some part-time article blogger here and there. I'm not talking, this is before the blogs started. I'm talking about real scholarly people who are professors, people who've written dissertations, people who are on the academic chairs and they are in the editorial boards of journals and conferences, people of that sort. There were a few thousand people in various disciplines concerning India. It's not only religion. Religion alone has several hundred. But all these other disciplines I'm naming, political science, all of that. So I found that this was an ecosystem that would feed each other. So if you are writing religion, and as long as you quote the history, Aryan theory or anthropology from a caste-based, as long as you're quoting someone from another discipline who's got good standing, has published papers in journals, nobody will question the validity of what you are saying because you've got an authoritative source. So it's all about recycling, and it's a hall of mirrors. You keep bouncing ideas and reflecting each other's ideas and repackaging and recycling ideas of your colleagues. And that's how the system works. So given the magnitude of this, and then behind this system, the funding agencies, I started looking at who they are and looking at behind them how long they've been doing it. For generations they've been doing it. Then it was clear to me that just putting one guy here, one guy there is completely a waste of time. But I built a huge knowledge about the whole ecosystem, who's who, how the system works, what are their main points of view, how to respond, what is my ability, what method of disrupting them works. I learned their vulnerabilities. So this was my first decade. First decade was we were known as the only philanthropist of India, Hinduism. If you look back in those days from 94 onwards, there was nobody else doing it. There was actually Hinduja. They had started the Dharm Hinduja Foundation, and they ran for a while and then they ran out of business, they shut it down. But there really was nobody else doing all this. So we have a very good time capsule of database of what all was going on. And we spent money, we did so many projects, and at the end of all that, I decided that to do this intervention, I have to become more active myself. So I was already working, 15, 18 hours monitoring all these guys on all these different universities and different academic forums and different disciplines, giving them responses. But these responses were in the form of a blog here or an e-group or something like that. Most of the responses were sitting in person and giving responses to them. And another thing I learned is the importance of getting out of your comfort zone and being in a hostile space where it's a group like this, but they're all our enemies, and I got to sit there and raise my hand and disrupt and tell them logically, cool-headedly, no shouting, no emotions, give them good arguments which they don't have any answers to. This is a very important experience. And our people, so many of our activists are not doing that. They're going to forums where other like-minded people will applaud. They'll pick up a few buzzwords from here and there, recycle it in their next talk. And so it's basically repackaging, recycling each other's knowledge. But how many people who are doing this kind of talk here have actually gone out into the enemy territory and done some battle? You have to be a warrior, you have to have war experience. You have to have battlefield experience. So going out into the real battlefields is important part of what I did in the first decade. Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here and also hit the bell icon to make sure you get notified. To donate, please click this button.